Okay, now I just turned it on. All right, I'm here today, so let me come on up close. Let me introduce Michael and Maria. And so the funny part of this story, you guys are here during the same time as Greg, and we just did a video of Greg yesterday. Now, Michael, you and Maria have already been describing over the past 2 weeks the improvements. And then when I posted Greg's video, Maria, I saw you go over there and say, hey, my husband Michael is getting better too. And then we were talking today, and the question was, should we do a video? You know, on my side, the reason I do these, it's to make clear the amount of hope that's out there with ALS, and to show the fact that people respond and people can get better. All right, so Michael, what I want to know, and always what people are going to ask for, is how long have you had ALS? What are your primary symptoms? And what's changed? How long have you been here? Have you been here before? So will you two walk us through?
Sure. So I would say about a year. So about this time last year, maybe December of last year, that was 2022. I started feeling slowness in the way I walked, then drop foot, and I kept falling, walking the dog. And then it just got worse. They thought maybe it was neuropathy or something else, so they sent me for PT.
Mm-hmm.
PT made it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to see a couple of neurologists and did the full EMG and the MRIs, and then they came up with the diagnosis of ALS. Go home, get your things in order, and come see us every 3 months, and we'll measure your progress. Progress, not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, we started looking for alternative methods of getting better for me.
Okay.
And we did try a functional medicine near where we live, and they were very helpful and very good, but it didn't do anything, and I continued to progress. I noticed Amy's YouTubes, in searching,
You found her.
and I found a couple of the testimonials. I can't even remember. It might have been Marius, the first one. Maris.
Oh, so Maris was
Might have been.
he was my second reversal.
Actually, we were at a symposium, and you were speaking.
You were speaking at an ALS
So
symposium.
my third reversal was Lindy, and
That's her.
she was
Yes.
at that conference
Yes.
describing
That's the
hers.
conference.
Yeah.
And I said we should check this out, and then we started looking at it. And then logistically, it sounded impossible because we live in Pennsylvania to even get down to Florida and the costs involved. But when it's your life at stake,
Yes.
and your wife is the most supportive person in the world, and helped you get where you're gonna get, and we made the decision to come here. And like Amy said, we've been here. I think it's 8 days, right?
Not even full 2 weeks.
And I noticed within the first 2 days, I have progressed a lot in the last 2 weeks. For some reason, maybe stress,
Before we
I
got
don't
here.
know. And the trip here just was
It just-
horrible.
Yeah, it
Getting
took 'em
here,
out.
falling all over the place. And so I did a lot of progression the last couple of weeks, and I couldn't even stand on my own. No more walking even with the walker. So definitely wheelchair bound and having to be lifted from place to place. So
When you got here.
Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I've and my legs, which felt like 2 lead bricks, I couldn't even move them. They felt like something was weighting them down, and now today I could do this.
I can't believe this.
And I could not do that when I first came here.
It's been a year.
So my mind is telling my leg to move, and it's actually moving.
So I get your point, which was travel was tough.
Tough.
And then by the time you got here, you were wheelchair bound. Maria, to your point, Michael, the last time you moved your leg like that was
A year
A
ago.
year.
Seriously.
Mhm.
It just kept getting worse and worse until he could not move anything at all. So to see this, it's like, it feels like a miracle. There's no other way I can say it.
a lot of times people come on over here because they are progressing rapidly. If I had a perfect situation, it would be to intervene earlier. It's not to say that we can't intervene at any stage, but in an ideal situation,
Exactly.
yeah, imagine. We were talking earlier about the Zoom call. So always we'll do a call ahead of time on my side and as a center, just trying to get a sense of who you are. We hypothesized during that call that there were a handful of infections related, and then we tested, we measured, and sure enough, that's exactly what we saw.
We were just so floored because we had seen the test results even before we got here, and we were actually looking for those things that Amy had told us. And when they showed, I was like, She just met us first time on a Zoom call, looking at him from head to toe, asking all these questions, and there it was. Everything she thought was happening in his body was happening.
The reason I bring it up for everybody that's watching, most people have already heard and know that I believe that ALS is a symptom, not a disease. And what becomes really useful when you're evaluating or looking at somebody or talking to somebody, or if you're the person kind of evaluating yourself, different causes have a different look to it. And so where your first symptoms started, how you progressed, what length of time you progressed over, start becoming really key indicators of what to test for. In an ideal situation, you're not just trying to test for everything. Instead, you're trying to get really clear on what might be going on. This, again, your video, Michael, comes on the heels of Greg's. We were talking, that model looks to be astrocyte involvement, specifically as a result of toxins, perfluorides and chlorates with astrocytes. And in your case, not only do you look different, not only do you sound different, not only did you progress differently, but no surprise, a very different culprit. And so more of a pathogen or infectious type of etiology.
And one of the things that came along with he lost all the movement, it was basically like lower extremity. But he also had terrible brain fog and no energy. Like, was sleeping almost all day, didn't want to get up. And I'm telling you, again, I can't stress it enough. He is so clear now. He's joking around with me again. I feel like he's Michael again. So, yes.
All right, so what I would tell you with that, I didn't understand it at the beginning. And I think for most people, even if you're the supporter of somebody that has ALS, unless you're the person with it, I don't think most people recognize the degree of fatigue and brain fog that goes along with this disease. And so what becomes obvious is the physical symptoms. The mental and emotional changes oftentimes go completely unseen. It's interestingly, as we see people over here regaining function, how often we hear the same exact comment, Maria, which is, it's like my brain fog is lifting. It's like I have more energy. So what we know is it's not really a motor neuron disease, even though it gets that name. And motor neurons are very definitely affected. But the question is, at what point? And the same things that are causing damage to motor neurons are affecting so many other things. We know the focus, concentration, brain fog, oftentimes difficulty sleeping, increased anxiety, sometimes episodes of depression. A lot of those things precede the initial motor neuron symptom. And commonly when we start to see those resolving, it happens at the same time that we're seeing function improve as well.
Yes, we've also seen a lot of the inflammation. He had a lot of swelling in his lower legs, his ankles, his feet. And the first day we came in, maybe the first or second day, our partners in the room just looked at him and said, I can see all the inflammation, like your legs are getting smaller and the color is returning, and he's able to carry more of his own weight. Like when he's getting up he can stand on the walker again. I mean, it's amazing.
And I want people to keep in mind that I was tested for Lyme with 2 different panels before I came here.
They said
negative.
Now
until I came here.
when he tested here,
so many variations of that infection, or co-infections or whatever they are, that you really need to get the full panel.
Extensive panel, yeah.
We run a panel that's about 24 pages. A lot of people will come on in and they have like 1 or 2 things that are tested. And so the question is, if you had a positive finding, if you have that pathogen, but nobody's looking for it, and so the things that are being tested are in fact negative, can you see what you're doing? And the answer is, look, in order to get an accurate test, you're going to have to test for the kinds of things that you might have. Otherwise, we commonly see false negatives, largely resulting from panels that are just not comprehensive enough. So I agree. Going back to, can you figure out what's going on so you can target an approach? The first question is, what are you trying to treat? Because out of everything that you're trying to treat, it's not ALS, because that's just the symptom. And so now it gets to be a question of, did you test comprehensively for things that make sense? Like not just testing random, but things that make sense from your history, from your symptoms, and do you have accurate results, and do you have comprehensive panels?
Exactly. And we also did, I don't know, for me, the turning point was I watched Gunther's
Mm-hmm.
full video. He had a very long one, and I watched it. And when I saw that, and him and I always texting back and forth, so I'm like, did you see, you gotta watch Gunther's video. So then he'd watch, go, oh my God, we have to go to BodyScience. That's where we have to be, because it was the only place that is talking about treating motor neuron and not just, letting it go, and not, just throwing different things at it that you don't know about.
Yeah.
I believed when we spoke on the Zoom, you were saying to us, anything that I'm telling you works, it works because I've tried it and I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not saying I read a paper or I read a study. You're saying I've seen it work. And so that's when Michael and I were like, we have to go on down to Florida.
Gunther was my first reversal,
Oh,
and the
story.
one that made the registry as number
Yes.
44. Maris about a year later, but that was recognized in Europe. And then the other two haven't gone through the recognition process, but all four have regained entire function, right? So Maris ran a marathon at the beginning of this year. Brian won a physique contest at the beginning of this year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So when I refer to them, reversal is not my traditional term. I think remission is, but because reversal kind of got coined by the group that recognizes them,
Yes.
that's what's used. Here's my question. Did you think after a year you were going to get the change in your leg this quickly? Do you think you were going to see the change this fast?
No, when your entire year has
On
been
it.
going like this, and you try something you knew you could do the day before and you can't do it, like falling in the bathroom. When that's been your year, no, you don't think that's going to happen.
It's kind of crazy
It
what
is.
what you think is going to go on, and then you come on over here and we were
And it's like,
talking.
yeah.
So imagine, again, this video is being done the day after Greg, because the two of you were like, oh my gosh, we should
Yes.
make sure everybody knows. And then we have somebody else at that same time. So last week, Greg had a lot of the changes. You were already regaining that use in your leg, and we have somebody in the other room who's able now to press his tongue to the roof of his mouth and move his legs a little bit too, right? So
That's awesome.
right, so it's fun to actually see so many people showing improvements.
Such good news. We have to get the word out. That's how I feel. We have to get the word out about this place.
I told you, I'm trying to coin the phrase rather, a new face of motor neuron disease, right? And that's the question. Can we just keep putting out more and more information on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and showing what people are going through and improvements until this disease just starts looking different? Can we make a new face of motor neuron? So now I'm going to come super close. And the question is, and after 8 days, this is it. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for doing this video.
God, Amy, thank you. Thank you so much. This is just,
I look forward
It's
to
our
the end of
pleasure.
our stay here next week to see where I am and coming back.
yeah,
Me too.
we're already planning it.
Me
Already
too.
planning it.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye.